Hello and welcome to Fish on Northwest. Wayne and Tommy Donlin.
What do you think, Tommy? It's the best.
Nice one. Drinking my buddy's homemade wine, living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got.
Hello and welcome to Fish on Northwest. Wayne England, Tommy Donlin, and yes, please do not attempt to adjust your television sets. The man is here, the one and only in the flesh, the general himself, Mr. Bill Herzog.
I'm very happy to be here.
How are you, my brother?
Good to see you, brother.
I couldn't stand it.
Yeah. Thanks for making the drive over.
It's Christmas.
It is Christmas. Got to put in a little extra effort. I mean, it's the holidays. What do we say? Never mind. Jumping right into it. Yes, Bill Herzog is here for the evening. We got a great show lined up. You may notice we got a number of items on the desk that we are going to definitely get to. Tommy, this is our last show of the year.
It is.
So, Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Merry Christmas, my friend.
Merry Christmas, everybody out there.
Yeah.
We'll remind you towards the end of the show, but we're taking that little break in between the holidays, which will be the 28th next week. So, we're going to take a show off, and then we'll be back January 4th, starting the first of the year. So, looking forward to that. Let's see, we got some giveaways tonight. It is Christmas, and got some trivia questions we're going to basically be putting out there throughout the show. So, pay attention, take some notes, because questions later in the show will have to do with winning these prizes that we plan to give away. Before we get too far along, I want to also mention to a lot of folks, hey, we got a special going on here. Actually, I'll get to that in a second. Before we get too far along, Jordan's ready over there. If you are joining us for the first time, jump on over to our webpage, www.fishhuntnw.com. They're going to find some coupon codes that you want to take advantage of. You can still get 20% off all edge rods that are not previously on another reduced pricing discount or coupon code. Use at checkout FHN20. You're going to get 20% off all fishing rods. And of course, still through the end of the year, Phelps Game Calls, Fish Hunt NW10, and get 10% off all Phelps Game Calls. And you ever seen Bill Herzog blow a duck call?
No, but I'd love to.
It's very impressive.
It's
Is it?
impressive. Yeah, the cats come out of the woodwork. It's impressive.
Are you inhaling or
phenomenal.
exhaling when you blow that call?
Hey, Bill, we're going to talk a lot of
Yes.
steelhead tonight.
Okay.
And in doing so, you and I have spent a little bit of time over there on the east side at Bogan's Oasis.
Oh man, yeah, it is. If you've never been there,
Yeah.
the scenery alone will knock your socks off.
You need to go. It is it is a special place owned by our good friends Louis and Tia Villagomez. They have a holiday special going that you guys are going to want to take advantage of. We have limited access to steelhead fishing through the winter here on the west side. Take advantage of this. Bogan's Oasis all-inclusive holiday sale. Fish and stay in February and March. 3 nights in the cabins. And Bill, you know how nice those cabins are. 3 nights in the cabins. 2 full days of guided fishing. All gear provided. All food, all drinks, all snacks, all meals, the whole deal. $750 per day for 2 people. So that's $375 per person per day. Now you're talking all the gear, all the guiding, all the food, a place to stay, hot meals, the whole shebang. $375 per person per day. 2-day minimum. Check it out at Bogan's Oasis on social media platforms, excuse me, or www.bogans-oasis.com. Well worth your investment. You're going to see, again, amazing scenery in the canyons there over on that east side. It is down in the lower southeast corner of the state.
Right.
Very corner, almost into the Idaho area. And then, so the terrain there is breathtaking.
You're going to see rock formations.
Yep.
You're going to see steelhead water. You're going to see wildlife. You're going to see stuff that you've never seen over on this side.
Rams.
I highly recommend
Tons of deer,
at
turkeys.
least do it once at least.
You have to do it once.
Yeah.
So check that out. We will remind you again and through our social media platforms for all the information. It's definitely a go-to fishery, and you're going to enjoy those folks over there. They do an outstanding job. All right, running down the show before we get too far along here. In-studio guest, a longtime friend, Bill Herzog. The general himself is in the house, and we are talking steelhead. So we're going to break that down for you. First half of the show is going to be all about going back in time. First half of the show is what it was. Steelhead discussion. Steelhead fishing in its heyday, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Something to really look forward to. Then we're going to back that up second half of the show with some questions that you better pay attention to win prizes. What it is. Bill, we're going to bring this back from the days of you and I doing radio.
Wow.
What it was, what it is in that comparison contrast. Second half of the show, the technologies. Easiest time to learn, to get out there and fish. All the intel you have, but yet it's so hard nowadays compared to back then, simply because there's so many fewer fish and fewer places to go. So we got that. Again, I'll mention the prize giveaways, second half of the show, so pay attention. Don't go anywhere. Jumping out for a quick break. We come back in time. What it was, steelhead fishing with Bill Herzog, right here, Fish on Northwest. Defiance Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Defiance Marine guarantees the best price on a new and best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine is a boat dealer who proudly sells Defiance, Allied, and Arima boats. All boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Defiance Marine has all your boating needs to help you get out on the water.
If you're looking for the best fishing rods in the world, you really do need to take a look at the Edge rods. I designed and built new machinery, and I think this new machinery has enabled us to build blanks like no other company can build without this equipment. There is no other rods in the world that are as good as these rods. You owe it to yourself to take a good look at them.
For more than 90 years, you've entrusted one brand to guide you towards living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Now you can entrust affiliated Better Homes and Gardens real estate professional to interpret your needs and help you find the home in which to live your dreams through every stage of your home buying or selling process. And through every stage of your life, there's Better Homes and Gardens real estate. Expect better.
All right, welcome back here in studio, Dwayne and Tommy Dolan, and in-studio guest, the general himself, Bill Herzog. Thank you again for making that drive.
Always my pleasure, man. You know I love being here.
I know you do, and you do such a great job. So let's walk through a little bit of history here. One thing I took note of, Bill, 1969, okay?
Yes.
The steelhead was declared Washington's official state fish.
As it should have.
Not a lot of people know that. If you ask the general masses, they're going to say Chinook salmon, of course.
Well, I thought it was.
Yeah. No, the steelhead
earlier.
is actually the state fish. Hey, let's think about this. Northwest steelhead fishing back in the day is kind of a rite of passage, as we have talked about many times. River fishermen battling the elements, fiberglass rods, Mitchell 300s, Bantam 100 series or 201 series, right? Fiberglass rods, eagle claw hooks, rubber hip boots, rubber raincoats, fingerless wool gloves, numb fingers, of course.
You were cold and sticky.
Miserable, yes. Growing up and fishing Puget Sound rivers, it was a thing. It was a rite of passage, as I said. So,
if I could still do it, I'd do it naked.
Yeah, you
I wouldn't
probably
care.
would.
You know?
Yeah.
But the rivers were still open.
Favorite river back in that heyday, and what year?
Wow.
Can you narrow it down?
Okay, let's go to 1981. I'm going to Nisqually.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere else.
Okay.
But I'm going to be fishing the Nisqually March and April because the water was always out of shape and a little dirty. And we didn't go down early. Do you know why? There was too many chums in the river.
Sure.
They were there all the way through February. They were a nuisance. So we stayed away from there. So I would say I would go to the Bogus Shield. Way back then.
Yeah.
I'd go to the Bogus Shield. And if it was 1984, it's closed now. The place is near and dear to my heart. It would be the Dosey Wallops or the Duckabush rivers.
And a lot of people don't even know. You drive over those, you go, look at that little creek. Look at that little stream, right?
Once upon a time, they were beyond spectacular.
So let's get this straight. So number one is Bogus Shield? If you went back in time, best season ever, best river, that's the Bogus Shield in '84.
Yep.
What's number 2 and 3?
Number 2 and 3 would be, of course, the Nisqually. Number 3, are you ready? If this was 1985, I wouldn't be going very far from home. I'd be
When
fishing
you're in Tacoma.
I'd be fishing the Puyallup and the Carbon.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yes.
We're going to get into those statistics a little later, but for good reason.
Yeah.
That was the heyday back then for those Puget Sound rivers. Believe it or not, we're talking in the heyday, some of these Puget Sound rivers and what they produced.
Right.
Time and time again.
When they opened up the Carbon River in 1983 for catch and release, it was a common day to hook between 6 and 10 steelhead a day.
Yeah.
And all I used to do is go down there and throw little Cleos.
Unbelievable.
Now,
It's such
wonderful.
a great little river,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Wonderful
now, so
fish.
is your criteria on those 3 that you just gave, is it always numbers of fish or was it also size of fish? Like, why did you say those 3?
Numbers. Consistency. Consistency, good fishing. If I would have to say size of fish, there's two in the state. There's the Upper Quinault. I do name rivers, by the way. Sorry.
Now, sure.
It's called the Upper
closed now,
Quinault
doesn't
or the Salduck.
Right.
That's where you're going to get your giants.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, favorite go-to, like your most utilized presentation or technique you would put out. You're leaving the house, and my rod absolutely has to be rigged with this.
Again, it depends upon what river I'm going to.
Sure. Understand.
And the type of, like if I'm going to the Salduck, I'm throwing a spoon in the Salduck.
Sure.
You know, because this fish is so aggressive, and you make long casts, big, heavy water, et cetera, et
Cover
cetera.
water.
Cover water
Yeah.
like that. If I'm going to the Nisqually, I'm drift fishing with an old Rocket Red corky and a chunk of uncured raw prawn.
That was it.
And that was it.
We've talked about that in the past, that white fluorescence coming off of that natural prawn. It almost has that purple haze UV. Natural
got
purple
UV.
haze UV coming through. In clear water, that stuff just pops.
When do we
Especially with
use
a little
UV,
sunlight.
Dwayne?
All the time.
There you go.
Anytime you get your hands on it.
You know, I've made the mistake of going drift fishing in recent years, which was mostly a wishing activity and not so much a fishing activity.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure,
It
sure.
is, and it's also a gear donation activity as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Can be.
Can be.
And
yeah.
it was for me. Okay, I'm just telling you my personal experience
Gotcha,
here.
yeah.
So I got to know, like, drift fishing, is that a lost art? Does it still have its place? Is it a commonly used method today?
Well, it should be. There are times and places for everything. Okay, I can tell you a situation that happened to me on the Little Salmon River on the coast, in tribal water, where they're fishing, you know, for hatchery. There's one spot where the water was dumping into a deep hole really fast. And the guys with floats, because the water's flowing fast up on top, it's sucking the floats right over where the gear can get down.
Sure.
I followed them with drift gear, and I had a whole pool that I basically had never been fished.
Sure.
Because my gear got down right away, and there was no float to suck away like that. So there are times and places where drift gear will still kick ass, like the Upper Skagit last year, way up high, where we fish in catch and release season, way up. The water's deep and strong and clear, and the water, holding water is commonly 12 to 15 feet deep. Really hard to fish with a float.
Yeah.
But a big piece of stick lead and an Okie drifter, guess what?
You're
Game
in the
time.
zone.
You're on.
Yep.
See, there are times and
Right on.
places for it.
Love it.
Absolutely. I want to hit you with a few statistics here relative to Puget Sound. I was doing a lot of reading the last couple of days, pulling up some historical data, and it's kind of a mind blow. So hatchery production from 1900 to 1994, and I just picked some random highlights, right? 1916, 5.1 million steelhead fry released into Puget Sound water. So back then they're releasing fry. They didn't really evolve to the hatchery programs of raising smolt, you know, fingerling or smolt up to that point.
Probably a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, a tremendous amount. 1939, 4.3 million fry and some fingerlings were released in the Puget Sound. 1976, 583,000 Snohomish smolt released, right? 77 Skagit system was getting 358,000. Wow. I mean, these numbers are staggering. The Puyallup system in 1993, 336,400.
Wow.
Okay, tremendous numbers. And of course, the Skagit River system in 1994, 446,000. So, you know, back in the 90s still, they were releasing a tremendous amount of steelhead smolt into to the Puget Sound Basin. River after river after river.
Right.
There were millions upon millions of steelhead smolt dumping into Puget Sound back in the 90s. It's pretty sad to see where it's gone at this point. So, just to hit you with a little bit of that. All right, we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back. More historical data and references from the general himself, Bill Herzog. After this break, right here, Fish on Northwest. Allied, the new leader in heavy gauge aluminum boats. Allied boats have standard reverse chine and lifting rakes to help you plane faster and run at lower RPMs. Allied Boats have several models to choose from, ranging from a 19-foot Mustang all the way up to a 32-foot Liberator. So regardless of what type of heavy gauge aluminum boats you are looking for, Allied Boats will have it for you. Contact Allied Boats today to learn more about these incredible fishing machines.
Sportco, an outdoor emporium, is the largest local outfitter in the Northwest since 1975, providing thousands of people affordable outdoor gear. This summer, make your next outdoor adventure more affordable by shopping at our warehouse-style pricing. We are a local Scotty dealer, offering sales, service, and repair. Located in Fife and Seattle, come visit us today. The outdoors await you.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Dwayne England, Tommy Donlin, and of course Bill Herzog. So, Bill, I want to kind of roll back still here in the 70s and 80s. What do you think when you were heading out? I mean, I see a lot of pictures with you and your drift boat, Old Red back in the day.
Yeah.
You and Mike and the boys and whatnot, hitting the water, dragging it around with your Toyota. Yeah. So a lot more time given to bank fishing and bank access, because obviously we had so much more access back then.
Sure.
Everything's locked up now. Everybody, private land everywhere. You can't even hardly get to some of our rivers. So, or was it a lot of drift boat fishing because you could, and it's just an efficient way to fish?
Yes.
All of it.
All of the
All of it.
We fished a lot of small water back then. There was a lot of small rivers we got to, and there, of course, no boat fishing in those. You probably could, but it'd be really dangerous and stupid.
Yeah. Didn't have pontoons back then.
But we used to like to pull plugs so much.
Right.
And casting out of the boat was always a lot of fun, cover more water. But a lot of places that we drifted back then, we could have bank fished just as easily. But we're big plug fishermen back then, and we, of course, it was the drip boat show.
Yeah. So I know that, back in the days, all the way up to today, you've always kept a journal.
Yeah.
I keep a journal too. It's a little bit different because mine's saltwater oriented, but in that journal that you keep, what kinds of intel do you document so that you can go back and try to align, characteristics of a certain day, certain month, certain river? What's in that journal?
Everything that you see. It doesn't matter. Water conditions, the weather, the temperature, time of day, water clarity, what gear you were using, what you caught on that gear. It all matches up, and you lose time too. You'll think back, you go, what day was I there? I think it was December 5th. You go back and look, oh no, it was December 15th. Wow, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And you'd be shocked. You keep thinking, okay, the fish are early this year, they're late. No, they're not. They come at the same time pretty much all the time.
Right.
When you have a journal, you can see these patterns develop that you know precisely when the fish are going to show up. And it is lock solid. But every little tiny bit of thing, if you can think about it, write it down. No matter what I ate, okay? Write it down, right? Because often the white powdered donuts is what gets you the fish.
Yeah, yeah, they can taste that sugar.
You
Absolutely.
gotta have the lucky food.
Keeping a journal today is just as much value as even back in the day, even though you have all this intel on the interweb and stuff that we'll talk about here later on. But
that's only gets you to a point.
Exactly.
Okay?
So my point on that is,
Get you to a
if
point.
you go into a spot early on in your fishing, career here, and you catch a steelhead, and you're like, I caught a fish in this hole using this exact gear, tell a buddy or whatever, or you take a buddy and this is what you do. It's like, no, man, they're here. We just got to keep throwing it in there until they bite. Well, the one thing you're failing to recognize is the water might be flowing 2.5 feet higher. It might be 2.5 feet lower. Conditions could be completely different. You could have had 3 feet of visibility. Now we're gin clear. So without keeping a journal document and knowing exactly why that whole fish the way it did, as you kind of alluded to, you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Some days you might get lucky, but more times than not, you're going to fail. So good point on keeping the journal. How many true 20-pound steelhead do you think you've landed? And what presentation do you think has brought those fish to hand more than any other presentation that you're throwing out there?
This is where the journal comes in handy. Otherwise, it would just be, I know I've caught lots of them, you know, a whole bunch of fish. But most of them have come from British Columbia. I'd say a quarter of them came from the Olympic Peninsula and some from the Skagit. But all my fish were caught primarily with 3 techniques, with a 4th coming on later. Big spin, drift fish, a big spinning glow, a spoon, a plug, and in the later years, a big pink worm under a plug. But those are the things that are going to get you a big fish. If I had 2 techniques, I can only pick 2. I need a giant steelhead. I'm going to take a spinning glow, and I'm going to take a spoon, and spoon and plugs are right there. But a lot of people will say plugs, and I kind of agree like that, but maybe because I throw spoons a lot more, but I've caught an awful lot of them on metal. It's anything that's big and intrusive, you know, because giant buck steelhead are real territorial, man. You know, and often, I used to like to use the analogy of the big dog laying in the yard, okay? He's laying there in his house, and you throw him a little nibbler, a little chewy thing, you know, and he's going to see it. He's going to be from here to Dwayne. He's going to go, that looks good. If it was right here, I'll eat it. Okay, that's like a bait, a bead, something small, fly, whatever, you know. If it's right here, he'll take it. Now I'm going to take a hissing cat and throw it out there. And that dog is going to go...
Probably grab his attention, right?
The hissing cat is the plug. It's the spinning glow, it's the spoon. Something big doing this.
Well, you used to always say, you know, don't underestimate how big of a presentation these big bucks and whatnot can take that are hiding in cover, because you could fit a full-size Coke can in their mouth. Yeah, or a lot of truth.
A grapefruit.
Right. You know? Let's jump to second round of a little bit of intel here. Steelhead recreational catches, by the numbers, in 1984. And I know you were fishing. So when I say Green River Duwamish, and I pull numbers of over 7,200 steelhead caught by recreational anglers in 1984, that's impressive. Then we jump to the Puyallup. Right? Yeah. And you said you would go there for good reason. In 1984, recreational anglers caught, this isn't run size, this is caught and bonked, or punch card, right? 10,305 steelhead.
Now, mind you, when this was going on, I was right in the middle of it down there, right? I would show up with either a spoon, like a little Cleo, or a number 10 pink pearl corky. That's it, right? And the water that year was really low, a super low water year. The fish were piled in the lower end. I would say 3/4 of the fish we caught were wild fish that we couldn't keep.
Right.
So think of how many fish were actually there.
Actually in there. Well,
right? We let go so many, and we still took 10,000.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and the Supreme River, of course, back then with the stocking numbers and what they were doing, 16,102 steelhead caught in the Cowlitz River. Winter run. This doesn't include any summer run. This is winter run fish. Over 16,000 steelhead caught in 1984 for the winter run of steelhead. A state total, statewide for that year, 115,767 steelhead were caught in the state of Washington.
Just winter fish.
Just winter fish.
Wow.
So, all right, we're running up against it here. Got a little bit long, but we're going to jump out for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We come back. More historical data of what it was. Steelhead fishing in the Northwest with Bill Herzog right after this break, right here, Fish on Northwest.
Support from Northwest Sportsmen make Federal Ammunition the world's leading ammunition manufacturer. Federal uses the industry's finest materials, giving you reliable ammunition that delivers superb accuracy and optimum performance. Northwest hunters rely on Sportco to provide the best selection and prices in the Northwest since 1985. Sportco and Outdoor Emporium in Fife and Seattle. Your journey begins here.
Yep, for sure. Oh yeah, big fish. Yeah, buddy. Nice fish. Oh, beauty. Gorgeous fish. Bobby.
Bobby's on the board.
We got a good one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, oh, geez, come on.
Nice fish. Nice fish.
We're going to show you how to make fishing reels.
You haven't been here, but you know it. You've heard the sounds, smelled the air, and seen where your heart lands, if not yet. You haven't been here, but you've longed for a destination near or far, where the young and old find rest and excitement, not apart. You haven't been here, but you're on your way to a place not far. ExploreTheDalles.com.
All right, welcome back here in studio, Dwayne England, Tommy Donlin, and yes, Herzog hasn't left yet, so that's.
I know he's still here.
No, I'm still here.
It's still here. That's a good thing. You got some pretty amazing fishing rods sitting next to you that we're.
Aren't they fun?
They are amazing.
Yeah, one of these, the old pictures that I sent you from 1984, 83, that is the same rod and reel.
I think I saw you holding a fish in 1980 something on the Nisqually there with that rod and reel, that little Shimano Bantam.
If this thing could talk, wow, it would have its own show.
It would have its own show. So speaking of which, and you kind of already mentioned it, but I want to go back on this because we'll actually tie it into today as well. If you wanted to pursue a trophy steelhead, Canada excluded.
Okay.
We're going to leave that out because you got such a history up there. Where would you go? You know, was it Puget Sound? Was it the coast? I think you already kind of mentioned it. So think about back then. Where would you go now?
Well, see, back then, our Puget Sound streams, the Skagit had some, the Skykomish had some. There weren't a lot of giant steelhead around. There were a lot of fish, but the real monsters, we didn't have them around here that much, right?
Skagit would have been your best bet back then, right? For a bigger fish,
back then,
I'd agree with that.
Right now, if I wanted a 20-pound steelhead, simply a 20, I would go to the Bogachiel, I would go to the Salduck, and if the Quinault was open, I'd go there.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but your best bet right now, if you really want a giant fish, is the Salduck.
You know what blows a lot of people's minds, and when they realize this, that every single season, when we could fish it, now we've been closed for 3 years, unfortunately, the Wainuti will kick out 20-pound hatchery steelhead.
Oh boy!
Every year, there's a couple caught. Buddies of mine who guide there consistently or did. Every year, they would boast a couple 20-pounders with clients on jigs, on beads, fishing the upper stretches, in the little buckets, in the little bathtubs, 20-pound hatchery fish. Well, and they're impressive.
The Lake Aberdeen strain of fish they used to use back then, they only got the big ones.
Yeah.
I've got a 17-pounder back in the day.
Right.
Hatchery fish. Yeah. And we lost bigger ones.
Sure.
So they've been there for a while, you know, since the early 80s. They've been there. So you want a giant fish, you know, genetics mean everything.
Yeah. That's what we should be doing with our hatchery salmon as well. Instead of using the Green River strain, which is really not that great of a fish.
Not a durable fish.
I mean, and then you look at what they're doing in Chile. You know, with all of those 50-plus pound Chinook salmon.
A 50-pounder down there's a jack.
Real. Right.
50-pounder down there is a bait.
Well, they just got the world record. It was like 106 pounds or something.
Crazy. Yeah.
It had an adipose fin the size of your shoe.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Unbelievable.
So, hey, you talked about guiding, Dwayne, a little bit, and I know, Bill, you guided on the Skagit as well. Now, was that a drift boat program? Was that a power boat program? And then what was that experience like?
It was wonderful because everybody got along so great. You couldn't fish under power, but you could use a jet boat, but you had to shut. I did a lot of side drifting back then. I had a small jet boat, right, that I could row. I was a sneaky some gun back then, man. I'd run down guys, and all the drift boats would be pulling plugs. I'd run down below them and get in below there and shut my motor off. And I'd plug with oars, and I'd just burn the entire pools up. And then when they caught up with me, I'd go back upstream and refish it.
Wasn't that type of boat setup eventually named the Skagit? Like you saw guys running around these little sleds with oars, and it was for that reason right there. And it actually it was developed in those technique principles on the Skagit River. And you could buy a boat that was called a Skagit. Yeah.
I just watched those guys doing it, and I go, "That's a really good idea. I'm going to do that." And so I loved fishing back then, man. We had. Wow, I'm gonna start crying.
It's all gone, unfortunately.
It's all gone.
I actually saw an episode with Larry Schoenborn, Fish in the West, back in the day. He was fishing with a guide out here on the Satsop River in December or January for steelhead, and he had his boat, his sled set up like a Skagit. He had the oars on there, your palm plugs with the oars. He'd power back up river.
Yeah.
It was the Skagit setup transplanted into the Satsop River in the heyday of catching big wild steelhead on the Satsop River. Unbelievable, those days are gone. All right, a little more trivia before we jump out for this break. Wheat River run size, 1972-1973 season. The actual run size that came in. We're talking steelhead here. We're not talking any other salmonid species. We're talking steelhead. 1972-1973, 160,000 plus.
Whoa!
Run size coming into the river. Okay?
Unreal.
In the early 70s. Wow. The catch record that year, recorded catches for recreational, was 10,500.
And remember, back then, a lot of guys didn't go all the way to the coast.
Right.
They didn't have to. We had such great fishing around metropolitan areas.
Yes.
Like, I thought when I go to the Puyallup and I'd have, these 6 to 10 fish days, I don't need to go all the way to the Ho, and I can go 15 minutes from my house and have great fishing.
Right.
Why do I need to travel?
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people did the same thing back then. Maybe they'd go out there for something different, something to do.
Yeah.
Other than that, there had to be way better fishing. I don't think that many people were actually there.
And now,
Right?
here we are. We are
no
forced
kidding.
to drive, right? We're all
Right.
pigeonholed in a couple drainages. And to finish that up, the natural spawner escapement back then was only 4,200 fish, and they were able to continue to keep that amount of fish coming back. But in 2005, for some reason, co-management in the state, they dropped that down to 2,500. So you drop the numbers that you feel are required to keep these fish runs sustained, and that's kind of depressing.
It is.
All right, jump out for a quick break. We come back, second half of the show. We're going to really get into it now. What it is. I'm going to get you some tissue.
How are you going to have to?
We've lost a lot. What it is, and we're going to break that all down and some trivia questions. Second half of the show coming up after this break, right here, Fish on Northwest. Allied, the new leader in heavy gauge aluminum boats. Allied boats have standard reverse chine and lifting rakes to help you plane faster and run at lower RPMs. Allied boats have several models to choose from, ranging from a 19-foot Mustang all the way up to a 32-foot Liberator. So regardless of what type of heavy gauge aluminum boats you are looking for, Allied Boats will have it for you. Contact Allied Boats today to learn more about these incredible fishing machines.
Hey guys, I'm Big Mike. Come on down to the Edge Pro Shop and see me. We've got all the best brands under one roof. We've got Hawken, Pro Cure, Short Bass, Pro Troll, Yakima Bait, Get 'em Dry Jigs, Northwest Bait Scent, Daiwa Reels, North Fork Lures, North Wild, Brad's, Superfly, Rocky Mountain Tackle, and of course, the greatest rods ever built, Edge Rods.
Welcome back in studio here, Dwayne England, Tommy Donlan, and yes, Bill Herzog, and we just walked through a pretty substantial amount of history.
Yeah, we did.
And
Feeling very nostalgic. Right?
yeah, well,
good
you know,
history.
we at least got to experience some of that. You experienced much more than I. 84 in the heyday, are those numbers I was throwing out? I was graduating high school, going on a vocational school. I was busy just trying to get the life going. I had very limited time to even think about fishing at that, you know, that 3-4 year period there. So I missed out on some pretty amazing stuff. Great history lesson of what we had, and what it was. Now let's take a little bit of look at what it is. Like reality check, right? What it is. I think we all know where this answer is probably going, but what do you think is the number one thing that helps those dipping their toe into the steelhead pool for the first time or first multiple seasons, trying to learn this, crazy addiction that we all seem to get wrapped up in? What do you think is the number one aid that is expediting their learning curve?
Well, we have what they call a heart monitor learning curve going straight up. The internet changed everything.
For sure.
It makes a steelheader out of a brand new newbie in no time.
Yeah.
But I like to use this analogy also. As you know, I'm a bowler, right?
Yes.
I could show you videos.
Kingpin.
I could have you anything you want to see on the internet, how you can average 220.
Sure.
Right now.
Right.
Here's what you need.
Right.
Here's your bowling ball.
Yeah.
Here's all the gear. There's a lane. You know what the guy's going to do? He's going to shoot 120, 130, 140.
Time and time again.
Because things change. Lane conditions change,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
He's going to learn. I've got my bobber. I got my pink beads. I got my worms. Here I go.
Right.
I'm gonna
You
nail
bet.
it.
Yep.
And if the conditions are right, yes, you will.
Sure.
But like you said, water comes up. You need something with more visibility. Fish move. The only way to learn, you got to go out and do your 10,000 hours.
Boots on the ground.
Yes, you have to go out and still do it.
Yep.
Your learning curve is steeper and easier. You don't have to go find books and magazines and things anymore. Now you can find out what to use right, but you still got to know when to use it and where. So yes, you can be a good steelheader a lot quicker, but you still got to put your time in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But when you think about like the technology in the rods, the reels, the tackle, and you look at all the techniques that were developed, back in the 70s and 80s that produced just huge numbers of fish for those that, had boots on the ground because there was no internet back then. And then you fast forward to today and it's information overload. When you compare the techniques from then to now, are you seeing the same thing? Is there a difference? Like, what was the technology game changer for steelhead fishing?
It was definitely braided lines, fluorocarbon, more sensitive rods. It's again, we have these wonderful tools now we never had before. However, it was kind of a necessity. The reason these things got better is because it's sad because our fishing went down.
Sure.
We needed to fish better and smarter for less. Back in the day, the glass rod, anything you throw it out there, and when you got pools full of steelhead, you didn't really need all this stuff. It was totally unnecessary. And now we have all these bait cures and all this really great tackle right now. If we had it back then, it'd have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we didn't need it.
For sure.
Back then, it's all a matter of it happened because our runs are going down, which is kind of sad. But,
I'd say one of the greatest advancements that I put into my arsenal, still use, and a lot of folks do. You and I talked about it for years on the radio. You introduced it into the Northwest Wild Country studio. People saw it on the TV via Comcast Sportsnet back in the day as the old homemade stick lead.
Oh, baby.
And now look at it.
Yeah.
Now look at where it's gone. It's manufactured by Momac. You can buy packages of them, all different sizes. It's so applicable to so many different things. And some knucklehead back in the day even desecrated your drift boat by putting a stick lead under a bobber.
yeah.
And
I will die on the hill that you're the first person to ever side drift with bobber
dog with a stick lead,
one.
right?
You're the first one, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it works so well out here on this upper section of the Bogus Shield with our drift fishing.
Big boulders and nasty crap.
And there it went, man. That stick lead just cruised on through, and it was so convincing. And we talked about so much the likes of like Bobby Kratzer. He switched to that years ago. Has never switched back. You go fishing with him in a day in his boat. Everything you're slinging under bobbers is stick lead for good reason.
Over on the Clearwater. Said he used one stick lead for an entire season.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah, I actually
lost
think Bobby Kratzer's probably still using the same stick leads that he started back in 2012 when he first started doing it.
I'll tell you what, my precious Okie drifters here, I still have lots of them because of the stick lead.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for the stick lead, I would have been out years ago.
Prize giveaway question before we jump out for break, and this information was thrown out there a little bit ago early on in the show. You may have to go back and take a look to get your answer. But question, what was the smolt plant on the Skagit River system in 1994?
What do I win?
Nope, sorry, denied. All right, what was the smolt plant on the Skagit River system in 1994? Jumping out for a quick break, we come back. More of what it is, steelhead fishing with Bill Herzog, right here after this break. Fish Hunt Northwest.
All Defiance boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why all boats are backed with a lifetime warranty. All Defiance boats come standard with large fish boxes that are fully insulated so that you can ice your fish properly all day. All Defiance boats are foam flotation filled and unsinkable for the ultimate in safety while fishing offshore. Before you buy any boat, stop by or call Defiance Boats today to ensure you are getting the very best glass boat your money can buy.
If you're looking for the best fishing rods in the world, you really do need to take a look at the Edge rods. I designed and built new machinery, and I think this new machinery has enabled us to build blanks like no other company can build without this equipment. There is no other rods in the world that are as good as these rods. You owe it to yourself to take a good look at them.
New days, new beginnings, new friends, new loves, new dreams, new goals, new scenery, new job. No matter what the next chapter holds, Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate will be there to help you find the new that's right for your lifestyle at any stage of your life. Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. Expect better.
We're going to show you how to make fishing reels.
All right, welcome back here in studio to the show with in-studio guest Bill Herzog. So we kind of talked about that bobber dogging thing a little bit.
Now let's get into this. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about my vision when I think. So Bill, you and I have fished together once on Rufus Woods, and I think we've talked fishing less than a handful of times collectively, right? Saltwater world, freshwater world, for the most part. So I have this vision of Bill Herzog, and it's like the king on his throne, this big fancy jacket, you know, and just you look down upon the peasantry that's using bait,
right?
And along with bait. Again, it's my perspective. I'm not saying this is reality, guys.
True,
I'm just
right.
saying, like when I because I hear how much you love the gear, right? Not as much the bait. Okay.
Yeah.
And so and then one of those things, you know, I see you on your crown, and then all these people using bait below you, and
I use them for.
And along with that, right, along with those methods that are below the crown is bobber dogging, because in the past you've referred to bobber dogging is like you're using training wheels, right? Is that still your thought, or is it your thought?
All you need to do is watch guides. Do you see any of them pulling over, handing them spoon rods or drift gear? Or even a regular float? No, because you have to learn how to mend. You have to learn. It takes so much to get to this point. It's a godsend for somebody that has brand new people. They all get a pass, okay? You want them to catch steelhead, you want them to feel the power of a steelhead, appreciate what they're doing out there and get them into fish. Give them something that they can use immediately and be successful.
Sign me up.
Especially, it's an artificial lure. You're not killing smolts.
Yeah.
You're catching fish under the regulations, and it's a great way to fish.
So I think it was introduced to me back in 2004. And I've been doing it for a long time, and you know, eventually Oregon caught on. They started doing it a handful of years ago, but you know, it was shown to me clear back in 2004, and we did it for a number of years. And I can tell you, by putting the stick lead under a float and bobber dog and covering water, it's almost flawless. Now, the benefit I saw out of all those years rowing drift boats and whatnot, and getting to good water that's going to hold fish and stuff, it is a great in-between water presentation. In other words, fishing the fringes, the shallows. You always used to say, hey, they're not very tall. Sure. And a lot of people are blazing by this water, right? Well, between this hole and that hole, there's pockets where those fish might be holding, and there might be enough current to push your float along. And instead of casting at every one of those little pockets, you know, to let that float, if you're mending it right and feeling it back and forth and into those pockets and dropping, if you're actually mending it correctly, you can feel the tick of that weight on the tip of the rod. I mean, It can be a very efficient way to fish for those that really know what you're doing with it, but it is also training wheels for those trying to learn, because it takes the guesswork out. You don't even have to read water. It's putting your presentation in the travel lane, right? It is, it's self-adjusting, either vertically or perpendicular. I mean, it'll elongate or go vertical if it gets too deep. It's just like the ultimate autopilot I've ever seen when it comes to fishing.
It's very hard to take your foot off of first base.
Sure.
When you find something that works as well.
Right.
Right? Something that works as well.
Right.
We could get into the thesis and all this of why people change deck, because they want a little more of a challenge. Or there's some places where those don't work. A lot of water where it doesn't work. It's up to you to figure out where to use it. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I do challenge somebody, if that's the only way you fish and don't fish any other way, it's like a PGA golfer only playing putt-putt. Pretty close. Pretty close.
Can only be so successful.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
That's right.
So, you know, I always like to look at like technology development over time, how things change, how they improve, when it happens, why it happens. You know, when you think about steelhead fishing, I mean, one element of steelhead fishing is the bead. And on the face of it, you think, well, how much can a bead really change over time? But started out as a steelhead thing, kind of crossed over into the salmon arena too.
You know where it started out as? Right there. That is a translucent, kind of a, not a full floater, but just kind of a neutral buoyant.
Neutral buoyancy,
and light shines through it just like a bead.
Productive bead.
Basically, the old school Okie drifter, the translucent, there's the OG bead right there. It's the same
the original.
size.
100%.
So you're just basically using something a little softer and about the same color and the same translucity.
All right.
And drift fished or under a float bobber dogging, it kind of has the same presentation, size, you know, attitude in the water. So
I think beads have been wonderful. It got guys away from using roe.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, finally, you know, for years on the peninsula, when I first started fishing over there after the Skagit closed down, I'd watch guys who were side drifting back then, right? With roe, and I'd watch them killing smolts and cutthroats and just, oh my God. And even steelhead gargle, you know, they gargle eggs, and you couldn't, it was brutal watching the carnage. When they switched over to artificials, because they work so well and you didn't need bead, these fish were never hooked mortally. And it was a godsend for them things to show up.
It's been evolutionary for sure. Okay, before we get out here on this quick break, trivia question. What was the state total catch record in 1984? I stated it a couple times. What was the total winter steelhead state total catch record in 1984? And with that, we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back, a little bit more about the Okie drifter, the evolution of the new Okie drifter, and where this is all going with Bill Herzog right after this break, right here, Fish on Northwest.
A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima boats are manufactured with pride in Bremerton, Washington. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why Arima boats are backed with a lifetime warranty. Arima can offer every boat with Honda outboard packages so that you can take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Call or stop by Arima boats today and let them help you get into your very next boat.
Yep, for sure.
Oh yeah, big fish. Yeah, buddy. Nice fish. Oh, beauty. Gorgeous fish.
Bobby's on the board.
We got a good one.
Oh yeah. Oh, geez, come on.
Nice fish. Nice fish.
Support from Northwest Sportsmen make Federal Ammunition the world's leading ammunition manufacturer. Federal uses the industry's finest materials, giving you reliable ammunition that delivers superb accuracy and optimum performance. Northwest hunters rely on Sportco to provide the best selection and prices in the Northwest since 1985. Sportco and Outdoor Emporium in Fife and Seattle. Your journey begins here.
All right, welcome back here in studio as we continue with our trip down the road of what it is. So, Bill, you mentioned the OG, the original Okie Drifter. I can tell you I caught my very first steelhead back in 1974, 12 years old, on the Puyallup River above Alderton on an original Okie Drifter.
How about that? Because that's what we used back then.
That's what we used back then. Drift fishing with about an 18 to 20 inch leader, silver eagle claw, single hook, and lead in surgical tubing. The original drift fishing method.
Probably
that
Stren or original Maximum.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's pretty interesting where this is going. Now you had written a phenomenal article, and folks haven't seen it. It's been STS has been sharing it once again up on the old interwebs there, and it's a great read. You go back to the day of the introduction of the Okie Drifter to you. Matter of fact, I think you left a suitcase full of Okie Drifters that were offered up to you back in the day up in Canada, right?
I've done a few really stupid things in my life, but I walked away from a lunchbox full of these, the original number 3 Sunrise,
unbelievable
Maxwell Manufacturing. That guy, the owner of the lodge, offered them to me, and I went, oh, I don't need those. I don't use those back where I come from. So I took like a handful of these home with me, fished them in our home water, and oh my goodness, I'm like, what? Couldn't wait to get back to the next day. I go, where them Okies at? Oh, I gave them away to somebody.
Somebody had to do what he had. Now, I bring that up because in the article, you are quoted in there saying, I challenge any modern day tackle manufacturer of today to reinvent, recreate the original Okie Drifter. So Maxwell Manufacturing started these back in the day, sold it to Lure Jensen about 1970. A lot of these in this bag here are the Lure Jensen models. There's some OGs in there, but the differences between the original and the Lure Jensen are what? So people understand.
These are 2-piece plastic. They were made in 2 separate molds and had to be glued together, each one by hand.
Right.
Time-consuming process.
Right.
So when Lure Jensen got it, they thought they'd accelerate the processing. They injected polystyrene.
Right.
Instead, injected polystyrene.
And then painted them.
Yeah, which basically made it a corky or a cheater.
Yep.
Made them nothing different, but just a little bit different shape. But they're not the same because light goes through these. These look like real eggs.
So Joe over at Roble Eyes has now started making the Okie Drifter again, right? And this box that he sent me is full of various colors and whatnot of the Okie Drifter.
Tomo arigato, Mr. Roble Eyes.
Yes. So
now, have you fished these new ones?
Absolutely, I have.
Yeah?
The light pink ones I got a hold of last year. Took them up on the peninsula during air clear water conditions, and the light pink ones destroyed. They worked really, really well to the point that I didn't have to break these out of my box.
That's right. You can save those. Leave them in
really tickled me that I didn't have to use my OGs. That these things were the same shape. That's the killer right there.
So that's the pink.
That's the dude. Light pink.
Number 3.
Boom.
And the cool thing about this is it does bring you back. You hold it up to the light, and you get that translucent look through it. He makes the clear ones too that you can paint yourself. But he has a variety of colors here. And, mission accomplished. I mean, he is hammering these out. He has a number of printers kicking these things out. He packages them up. Jordan, throw that slide up there again. Roble Eyes, you can find him on Facebook and social media platforms. Yeah. Joe's a great dude. He's kicking these things out like crazy. You can buy different color sizes, different numbers of per package. It is as close to the OG Okie Drifter that you and I grew up fishing that we're going to find in today's society.
He sent me some before. He says, how do these look? And I went, well, do this and this, and then he did it. You say the result right there.
Yeah.
They're perfect.
Yeah, right.
They're perfect.
Well, and speaking of technology again, and you kind of briefly mentioned it, but these are 3D printed.
Correct.
And 3D printing technologies come a long way.
A long ways.
And, they have resins and polymers now that are super resilient, tough, don't crack, right? Because these things are actually hollow, right?
Yeah.
And so the last thing you want is, you hit it on a rock, you get a crack, now you're getting water in there.
Yep.
But you haven't seen any of that with these.
I make a cast too long once I'm out these the other side. time it hits the rock, and I hear it go. I'm like, oh.
And then it's
Bring it
cracked
in,
in
and
half, right?
31.
Yeah.
But now you don't need to worry about that anymore.
Exactly.
Fishing the new technology. So hats off to Joe.
Yeah.
Hey, you challenged him. He answered the call, man.
Oh.
And he's kicking it out there. I cannot wait to fish these on the OP starting January. I'll be out there a number of times. So
love them,
it's going to be fantastic. All right, final question, prize giveaway question of the evening. What was the Queets River run size for season 1972-73? What was the Queets overall run size of winter steelhead for season 1972-1973? Jump out for a quick commercial break. We'll be back to close out with Bill Herzog right here, Fish on Northwest. Defiance Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Defiance Marine guarantees the best price on a new and best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine is a boat dealer who proudly sells Defiance, Allied, and Arima boats. All boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Defiance Marine has all your boating needs to help you get out on the water.
If you're looking for the best fishing rods in the world, you really do need to take a look at the Edge rods. I designed and built new machinery, and I think this new machinery has enabled us to build blanks like no other company can build without this equipment. There is no other rods in the world that are as good as these rods. You owe it to yourself to take a good look at them.
For more than 90 years, you've entrusted one brand to guide you towards living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Now you can entrust affiliated Better Homes and Gardens real estate professionals to interpret your needs and help you find the home in which to live your dreams. Through every stage of your home buying or selling process, and through every stage of your life, there's Better Homes and Gardens real estate. Expect better.
All right, welcome back here in studio with Bill Herzog as we wind down the show. Great little walk down memory lane, my friend.
I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun. A little sad, but in final thought, anybody out there, are steelhead fishermen who are under 40 years old, when they feel like, say they fished the Wainuchi and the Satsuma and the Hump Tulips and they loved it, and that's their place, and you lost it, you kind of get a feel for what we had to go through. You know, but we've lost so much over the years. And if there's any reason to fight for what we have, you felt it.
Yeah. That's why it's so important to be active, pay attention, follow along the information Tommy and I try to put out there week in, week out when we cover this stuff. Decisions at the state level, the commission, what is going on between co-management or lack thereof at times. You know, this is getting very, very frustrating to keep losing, right? And so Grace Harbor is now our new Puget Sound. And everything's closed. North Puget Sound is kind of making a resurgence, though. We should have some numbers here in the near future from Chase Gunnell and some others at DFW on that North Puget Sound area. Skagit opportunity may be coming this February, which would be phenomenal. Skagit sock. Can't wait to get up there and catch and release on some of those wild fish. And we'll talk about your 20-pounder.
I got a 19 last year.
Yeah, you did.
That's solid.
How about that?
Wow.
Very solid.
So, you know, we could talk on this topic for hours. We barely scratched the surface. They only give us an hour, so we got to try to wrap up into this as much as we can. So, can't thank you enough for coming over. I know you got to get back on the road and head home tonight because apparently there's snow coming in the morning. Huh?
Well, it's wintertime. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
It is wintertime, although it's a little warm as it is. So, Tommy, last show of the season, my friend. So,
hey, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Looking forward to kicking off 2024.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
And we'll just get right back into it as we move through the season and see what we get. So,
you may see me again.
I will, for sure. Want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. God bless. We will see you in 2024.